the clown. There we go. Okay, so thank you very much for joining us. Our speaker tonight is Lucas, and just before I introduce him properly, the prize tonight is £100 voucher for Domain Inc. So once the winner is announced, we will let Domain know, and they you can give him a buzz and chat through what you would like him to send you.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I thought, as Lucas is going to be showing us art with ink, that might be a rather nice tie-in.
Appropriate. Yeah.
So we are coming towards the end of our 14 days of Penmas. We've had 12 talks. Well, we will have had 12 talks. We've had one party, which unfortunately I missed. And we've also got the quiz finishing it off on Thursday night. So we've got one more talk left tomorrow night. The prize there is a Retro 51. And then the main prize for the quiz night is actually sponsored by Colt Pens, and the main prize is a 2K in the nib of your choice, and also a couple of ink bundles of their exclusive inks. Nice. So still some really nice prizes to go. We've been really lucky with our sponsors this year. They've been really, really generous. So what we'll do is Lucas is actually going to give a bit of a presentation, and then he is going to do a demonstration. Whilst he's demonstrating, if you've got any questions, if you want to throw them into the chat, I'll ask them and he can answer them while he's demonstrating, if that's okay. So Lucas is a 20-year-old artist from Manchester, and he's currently finishing up the last semester of his bachelor's degree in game art. He'll graduate next year, specialising in environmental concept art for the gaming and media industry. Lucas started experimenting and sketching with fountain pens and inks a few years ago while studying A-level art, and quickly fell in love with the hobby. These days he uses pens and inks as tools of the trade, sketching out concepts on paper using traditional methods which help his ideas flow. Lucas is also the creator of the DIY Inky Sketching Pack, which gives you the opportunity to own one of his signed original sketches and have a go at sketching something for yourself using the exact same ink, brush and paper that he used. Lucas has also very kindly said that he would like to give away his sketches tonight as additional prizes, but during the talk. So there we go. Okay, I will pop us on mute. I can remember how to do it.
I need to share my screen if that's all right. It says it's
blocked.
Let me
share screen.
Yeah, I thought it'd be cool to kind of do a make an inky pack now and give it away to someone. I don't really have any use for the sketches, so I might as well.
So I have got
oh, there you go, I've got it.
There you go. I can't find where to mute everybody.
If you click on participants list, it should have a button at the bottom that says mute all.
Is that working right on your end, Steph?
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, hang on. Yes, I can see that perfectly. You're muted though. You mute yourself.
Right, there you go. All right, I think I'm all right now. Let's see. We'll give it a go.
Sorry about that. I think you've got it.
You're all right. So yeah, I'm happy for questions during as well. I think generally sketching stuff, wait till the end. But if anything pops up that you want to ask me about, just ask me while I'm doing the talk. So yeah, so I'm Lucas, otherwise known as Inky Sabi online sometimes. So how do I? Oh, there we go. So yeah, so this is a bit about what I'm going to be covering. So a bit about me, kind of how I got into fountain pens and ink art, the kind of early collection that I had, and how I really got into sketching with pens properly. So this is me. So Steph's give you an introduction. So, oh, there you go, actually, Steph, on the left there. You can see me with my little camera gadget around my neck. And that's, I used that to
brilliant.
film the elephants while I was doing some live drawing at the zoo. So with a wide angle, you can see the sketchbook paper and the, anyway, never mind. So that's me. So as you can, I've been part of FPUK for nearly 3 years, just about. I just joined before my birthday, 2019. So yeah, the main pages that I run are Inkisabi and Yukasabi, and basically on Inkisabi, I share my adoration for fountain pens and inks and all that kind of thing. I use them as tools to sketch every day, basically. At the minute, I haven't been doing just because I've been having a bit of a breather from uni, but I love writing with them, all sorts with them. It's not just for sketching, that's the main thing. And then a lot of you won't have seen this side of my work. So this is kind of what I've been doing at uni this year. So you can see some of my recent work in the top left that I've been doing in the last month or so. But this is kind of what I do like properly. So a lot of you will have seen the sketchy stuff, but this is what I actually do. The sketching is just to get the idea down on paper. And I find that fountain pen inks just do that better than anything else. A lot of my classmates will draw digitally fully, but I like the early foundations to be done on paper. I feel like the ideas come out a little bit nicer. So that's me. So yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I do. 3D, 2D game art stuff, designing environments, props, characters, you name it, to basically pitch art for games and projects. So here we go, right? So the Inky origins. So it started with this guy here. This is a Pelican M200, and it came about because when I was in A levels, we started using Parker Quink in the class one day, and I really liked the ink, but I hated the really bad rubbish like rusty dipped pens. So I didn't really like that, and I was looking for something better, and I thought, oh, I swear fountain pens do something like that. So I started looking into it, and my uncle really, I remembered he's into pens and he must know about pens. So I messaged him about it and I said, what should I do? Like, how do I get into it? It's so complicated and there's so much stuff. And anyway, because my uncle's so lovely, the next day this turned up on the doorstep and he said, don't mess around with anything else. He went, this is what you want. He's a Pelican guy. So yeah, so this turned up on my doorstep from Amazon in a little paper tube, and I didn't really know anything about it, and it was just kind of a bit of a adventure for me to uncover. So it came with some little basic black Pelican 4001 ink, and inked that up in it, and I had a great time using it. But what I didn't know is you're not meant to flex them, because I was like, knew nothing about pens. So I was there flexing the nib and, oh, look at all this line. The nib was absolutely, churned out. It was awful in the end. I was like, I don't really like the M200 because I'd been springing the nib basically because I've been trying to get pressure line variation out of it because I didn't know anything what I was doing. I was dropped in head first. Further down the line, I realized that's what I did when I went back and went, you idiot. So then I got different nibs and now it's like one of my favorite pens. But yeah, so this is the early days of me in A-levels. So this was a few years ago when I was doing my A-level logbooks, and it was just me in this M200, and it was great. I had diamine, rustic brown, green black, and just onyx black, and that's literally all I used. And in my sketches and logbooks and experiments for my A-level art projects, this is all I used. And it was great. It was just me and this one pen. And then it was like getting closer to Christmas and, oh, what do I want? And then this happened. So as you can all see, I'm probably sure you've experienced a similar rabbit hole here. So we've got the iconic Lammy, we've got a Parker in there, we've got some Twisbys, the Eco, the Perco, and you can see in the top left there what my collection looked like early doors. So we had a little cheap Chinese case, and that one's a little pen roll that my sister made me because she was doing textiles at the time. And yeah, so it was just these little pens, and I loved them all to bits. They were great. I love having loads of different inks in them, and I started to get more into that. And then rolled around my 18th birthday, and my uncle had seen how much I'd loved this M200 and how much it inspired all my art, and I really got into the ink. I fell in love with ink. I'd used watercolor before, but ink to me was like watercolor, like to the next level, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So on my 18th birthday, he drove up from down south and I got this, which was awesome. So this is a Montegrappa Merry Copper Skulls, and this was a hell of an upgrade for an 18-year-old, and I'm still incredibly thankful for that to this day. And there's me on the right with getting my pen, unboxing it, and I thought I was dead nice. It's still something really happy that I'll always remember, and I still have and use it to this day. It needs a little bit of TLC now, but I just loved it. I loved it, and I took it into school. All these went into school, high school with me in A levels every single day, and I used them to draw with, write with. I properly used them. I didn't. They were not going in a box. They were all used as proper tools, and this was me at the end of my A levels. So this my final pieces. I actually did using a mixture of watercolor and ink. So the main part is watercolor, but all these little details on the buildings were all done in Earl Grey, I think, Yamabudo, bit of the greens and the reds that I used. And these are some more bits that I did. So same again, it was all watercolor and ink. And there's me with my little cheesy grin next to one of my pieces on the wall in the school when I come in to pick my A levels, and they had all my stuff all over the walls, and it was great. It was 2 years of hard work paid off, and I was like, I love all my pens, but then the springboard came, which was I finished my A levels. I still didn't have a gold nib. I'm gonna go big, so I saved up for ages, and I got the M800 when I finished my A levels, because all I knew was Pelican. I was like, Pelican. So I went straight in at the deep end for the extra money. I'll get the M800. And I went for the blue stripe. And a lot of you will understand my pain in this now, because I had the choice between the blue stripe and the ocean swirl, which was on Cult Pens at that time. Now, that is one of the worst financial decisions I have ever made, because if I had that ocean swirl, I'd be a much happier 20-year-old boy at this point. But lesson learned, I thought the classic blue stripe was the way to go. I now regret that decision massively, because the ocean swirl is worth an awful lot of money, but there we go. It was a great pen. it did the job, but this was the pen that got me into writing. I didn't feel the need to sketch with it. It has a broad nib on it and it's great, and no one's tuned it up since, but I didn't really feel the need to sketch with it. And that was the first pen I was like, this is a writer. This isn't for sketching, this is for writing. But yeah, so here was the trio then. So I've got the Pelican, the M200, my first pen, the M800 and the Montegrappa, and I kept them in my pocket, and they came with me everywhere, literally everywhere. Didn't matter where I go, I took them on me, I used them as tools, I made sure to use them. It's that old, the beautiful Ferrari sitting in the garage thing. It just seemed like an awful waste of money. So they came with me everywhere, on the bus, on the tram, you name it. And I used them for all my art. So then I finished my A levels. I started at uni. So this is where the sketching really took hold for me. And I started using inks and pens to really kind of get ideas down and practice, because I just loved the inks, exploring it.
Have you ever seen drawing with fountain pens, Molly?
But yeah, so it was just a mix of different inks, exploring that for the first time, and it was brilliant. I loved it. And this is some of my first year university work. So when I was coming up to do a project, everyone else would be doing it digitally, and I did it all in sketchbooks, kept all my ideas traditional. And this is all done using motor oil, which is my favorite. I love motor oil. I highly recommend it. And I'll tell you why in a little bit, but this was year 2. Same again, all my thumbnails and ideas I did on paper, and literally just took pictures and just cropped them and stuck them in my stuff. It was worth the extra effort to me, because the ideas seemed to flow easier. This was for a Mayan project. The other one was for like Wild West. Anyway, so then it was more of that, exploring personal projects. So on the right there, all diamine onyx black, and these are just done in my sketchbook. I take the picture and then I just add a little caption, and I just found the ink the fastest way to get a mood down. and get the idea across, basically. So yeah, I've got sketchbooks filled with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of these. They normally take me between 2 to 3 minutes a sketch. So it means you can do quite a lot in an hour, turn out a lot of ideas. And I'll show you how you can do one of these in 2 to 3 minutes, and then a bit of a nicer sketch as well. So, and yeah, you got weapons there. So it was like I'd get a splodge of Earl Grey, smear it, and then I'd kind of outline it to kind of make up a shape of an axe or something. But yeah, so here we go, the ink addiction. I'm sure everyone's gone through that, a bit of that as well. I'm guessing so. So I started putting on my swatches with, you can see the solid ink color on top, then what it looks like watered down. So when I came to draw something, then I could, you know, pick out what I wanted based on what I was sketching. And I really quickly fell in love with inks. And now, unfortunately, I didn't fall in love with samples inks because that would have saved me a lot more money. I actually just went straight in the deep end and just bought bottles, which was probably a bad idea. The cupboards are rather full, but you know. And then COVID happened really, and everything slowed down a little bit more. And it was the first time where I really started to not just use them as tools for sketching, but for writing as well. And the fountain pen challenge was something that I've done and I still do. I just don't post it the same as I used to because I forget. But I still do it. And it gave me an appreciating for pens for writing and pens for sketching are different. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. I'm a bit weird with it, but I'll tell you why. So yeah, it gave me this appreciation for writers. So I went on a bit of a buying spree of writers. So you got the 823, you got the Homo sapiens. I really quickly over COVID, I was like bam, 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 like buying all sorts of different stuff, a few new bits every month, because I had nothing else to spend my money on. I'm sat at home, not doing anything. Writing was what was making me happy. So yeah, sure, justified. I was selling some of my sketches, so why not? So this is now the collection currently after the infamous buying spree. So we went from, I'm on to grab an M200 and an M800 to now this thing. And unfortunately, this was taken about 2 weeks ago. And I think there's 3 or 4 new editions since then. So I think a culling is probably due on the menu sometime soon. But yeah, that's kind of a look at what I actually have. So here you go. So this is one for you, writers versus sketchers, because I'm assuming most people in the group just use pens to write with, obviously. I went in at the other end, which was pens for drawing as opposed to writing. So I think I have a bit of a different stance on it. So here we go. So these are my go-to writers. These are my favorite pens to write with, you know, wind, rain or shine. When I sit down at night, I will probably pick one of these. So on the left, you got the Pilot Custom 845. To me, writers are about, I like them slightly bigger. I like a nice medium weight. I like a buttery smooth nib. I like it to be wet. And it just needs to work perfectly. I don't like feedback on any of my writers, which you'll notice with any of these. None of these have feedback on. The 823 and the 845 are beautiful. Both crazy good writers, incredibly reliable. You got the M600 Vibrant Orange there and the Blue Stripe still. I use it to this day, 3 years later. Well, 2.5 years later. And I still love it to bits. And then on the right, we have my JG8, which John Garnham very kindly made me. And I love that thing to bits. It comes out with me every single day. And it's got a bokeh 18 karat on it. And it's absolutely awesome. It's so nice. And it's one that when I show people, even if they don't get pens at all, they're like, okay, all right, I'll give you that one. Like, it is very nice. So, you know, that's my version of it. So then if that's what I look for in a writer, this is what I look for in a sketcher. So you can kind of define, because I think one of the main questions that I've had before this talk is what pens are good to sketch with, what pens are good to sketch with, what inks are good to sketch with. This is, if a pen falls under these terms, I'd recommend it. So kind of lightweight, small to medium. You want it to be pocket friendly. Reason being is you're going to be taking it out. All my sketches I will use above concrete, gravel. If I drop it, it'll obviously won't be great, but I use them all. I'm not worried about where I'm using them or when I'm using them. Got to have good ink capacity, because I'll show you some of the techniques that I use later, and sometimes I'll purge ink onto the page. So sometimes you need a nice, a little bit of ink capacity. Good nib choice. So you'll see why I've said that in a minute, but the M200 specifically, the nibs just screw in and out. And not only that, but they're cheap enough. They're like 10 or 12 pounds on Cult pens, I think. You drop your pen, a Pelican's not going to, I don't think it'd break anyway. I've dropped mine all the time. I use them, I have 5 and I use them all the time. And I feel like even if I damage a nib, like drop it straight down on the nib, it's a tenner. It's not the end of the world. But if you're doing that with a Homo sapiens, it's a little bit more, not that cost effective to be sketching with and dropping about and throwing all over the show. So then you want easy cleaning. So same again, the M200, you can just yank the nib out, purge all the ink, it's cleaning a minute or less. Eco, same thing. Workhorse, it's got to be reliable. If it's going to be drying out after a month of sat there or not work when I get it on a certain paper, I'm not going to use it. Some nibs can be quite picky on paper. I use nibs that will literally write on concrete. The reason being, I don't know what I'll find. If I find a leaf or a train ticket, I want to be able to do whatever on it, or whatever I've got in my bag, essentially. So it's got to be able to work on like all kinds of surfaces. And the other one's affordable. Like I said, you don't really want to be, I'm using these very, very practically, and some people would crease when they see like the kind of pens that I'll be out sketching with, like on the bus, like because they can imagine the horrors of it rolling or off or whatever. But because I use them all, it needs to be affordable in case I do lose it or trash it in the process of the craft and drawing. But it's an important one to me that sketches are cheaper pens to me anyway. But anyway, we'll get into that. So these are some of my recommendations. So M200, it was the first pen I got. I went off of it for a long time while the nib was dodgy, but when I fixed it, I realized just how good it actually was. I would never write with this pen. I do write with it occasionally for notes, but like quick jottings, but I'll never sit down and write anything thoughtful at night with this pen. But I'll have 2 or 3 on me at any given time while I'm out at uni. Because they're just brilliant to sketch with. They've got great ink capacity. The nibs swap in and out in 2 minutes flat. They're lightweight. They can be affordable. It comes in all different colors and shapes and sizes, and they're just really solid pens, and they work. They just work. There's no messing about with them. So yeah, if you've had an inky pack or commission done by me, chances are if you flip it over on the back, it will say I've drawn it with an M200, because they're inked up all the time, and I have 5, and they're all fantastic pens. So then we have this guy here, and I'm sure a lot of you will own one of these, which is a 3776 by Platinum. These are wonderful pens. Now, for a sketch of they're up there because they're a gold nib. They're not cheap pens, but the nibs for drawing with are fantastic, and the few artist friends that I have that do use fountain pens all gravitate towards these for drawing, just because of the nibs. The nibs are fantastic. I have this one. This is a Star Wars edition, which I absolutely love, and I've got it inked with a I think it's a platinum carbon black. So it's a waterproof ink, and I'll use that when I'm want to do a bit of watercolor. Sometimes I don't just want to use all ink. I want to use a bit of color first, then line it, and I'll use this for that. Yeah, great pen, nice size, good weight, great nibs, quite a big converter. So I got on with it really well. I have to give a shout out to these if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one. This is the JG6 or the JG6 oversize. I just absolutely love the size, weight, and shape of this pen, and then the nibs, how easy they can just swap in and out. They're just a good tool, and with the materials, I find them dead inspiring to sketch with. I'm never without. I always have on me a 3776, a few M200s. I'll have the platinum. and I'll definitely have 1 or 2 of these on me as well. I absolutely love them. You can put Jinhao Fude nibs in them as well, which I use a few Fude nibs on some of them. They're really fun. And then this is a cool one. This is a bit of a double mention here. So a Twisby Eco is absolutely fantastic. I love my Twisby Ecos. I have 2 of them. One's got an extra fine nib, and this transparent blue one here was done by Niblab or Jose, and he made me a rather special custom stack nib a fair while ago, and it does a lot of cool things. And I always have this on me. So that little kind of blue, kind of purpley sketch there is done with Milky Ocean, and that's just done with that nib, and then the black's just the pilot parallel of kind of like just gone up to make, you know, a bit more definition. But I love how much variation you can get out of this nib. It's a proper, I use it like a sketching tool, and I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. I can't see why you'd bother writing with it, but don't shoot me, the calligraphers as a group. But for drawing, yeah, it's great. So here's some fun inks. As you can see, Robert Oster Motor Oil. I absolutely love this ink. I've mentioned this ink so many times, and I probably get on Rob's nerve about how much I actually just waffle on about this ink because I think it's great. I like inks that are dark, quite saturated. When you add that touch of water, bam, they just come to life. And this is one of those inks. It really doesn't show up that well in photos, but if you get motor oil and do a bit of sketching with it, just add a little touch of water, you get these almost pinks in there as well, pinks, yellows, greens. It's great. It's really good. Oh, excuse me. Then we have Robert Oster Thunderstorm. I absolutely love this ink as well. And I realised after I made this presentation that all of the inks that I mentioned here are Robert Oster's. So I'm not biased, but so this is Thunderstorm, and it's absolutely great. It's my favourite. It's my go-to. It's just, if I want to sketch something, and I just use this ink. It's as simple as that. I've used this for loads of commissions, loads of inky packs. It's a blue-black, but it has some nice purples in there. When you add water, it breaks down really well. Nice and dark, nice and saturated. The reason why you want a darker ink is because you get more range of values out of it. Whereas if you use a lighter ink, there's less room to work with between dark and light, which can make your drawing look a little bit more flat. So if you're going into inks to draw with, I'd highly recommend darker inks. Another one, Red Candy. I absolutely love this ink. I feel like it's quite underrated. I don't see this ink used that much actually. But it's brilliant. I write with this as well. I write with the others, but I write with this quite a bit. I really like it. Nice saturated red, but it breaks down with water dead nice. I've used this on another few inky packs, but other honourable mentions that I like for writing and drawing, these aren't just exclusives, but Diamine Espresso is a brilliant one. Diamine Green Black, love it. Mont Blanc Beetles Purple, by far the best purple. Colorverse Martian, I absolutely love that ink. It's so weird. It doesn't look anything like what it looks like online until you get it in person. It's like this weird toxic yellowy orange green. It's great. Diamine Teal Breaker, I have to give a shout out to that because it's a lovely, lovely teal. You've got Communication Breakdown. That's a lovely red. And it has a bit of green sheen. I like writing with that. Konpeki, that's normally the first, when I get a new pen, I normally put Konpeki in it to see if the nibs are all right, because if it just feels better with Konpeki for some reason. I don't know. It's just a bit of a ritual I have. But Diamine Jack Frost, that's a great ink. That's really good. I feel like that's a bit underrated. That was in the ink vent a year or two ago, I think. And I've never bought an ink vent, but Jack Frost is a super saturated blue, dead nice. And then the other one's Rowan Klinger Artist, which is one that I got recently, and it's kind of like a really light lilac-y blue that's quite nice. So I'm going to go into a demo in a minute, but like this is a rough summary of the demo. So for me, sketching's about the water brush. That's like very important to what I do. Picking the ink out, picking the pen out, what you want to use. Getting a bit of line variation is important, I think. Sometimes you don't want line variation if you're doing like very neat work, but I never tend to do neat work. To me, inky sketching is all about getting messy and creative. And I like working quite loose and fast. I can draw very accurately, but with ink, I choose not to. I choose to pull away from reality and not make things exact, because that's boring to me with art. I like the artist's third eye being in the sketch. You can feel the energy in it a bit more when you kind of just relax and back off the reality of what you're drawing. My other thing is I kind of use a lot of texture and wash in the shadow to pull out detail. And my main one is let the ink do the work. While I obviously do have a lot more experience in the drawing side of things, the ink does most of the work, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I just really let the ink show itself, and it kind of like, it's like 50% skill and then 50% just the ink looking awesome is what gives me my nice sketches. And then my process is sketch, add some water, it dilutes down, and then I rebuild the sketch again, and then that's it. So yeah. Right, so what I'm going to do now, if you can start on questions if you want while I set my little camera up. If we've got any.
Yeah, there's a couple, most of them from me. One of the questions from the group was, what size nib do you use most in the 200 Pelican?
Ooh, all of them. I'm gonna be a pain here. My favorite one is a broad nib, weirdly, which is what I'm going to be using tonight. And a lot of people would be like, why on earth are you sketching with a broad nib? But I'll show you. I'm just shoving all my rubbish out the way so I can have a bit more space here. I'll try and get it set up so you can see a bit better. So here we have.
You're still sharing your screen.
Oh, am I? Hang on. Let me get rid of that. How do I do it now? Oh God. There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, perfect.
So this here is the first pen I ever got. So I still use it every day. This is the M200. This is the green marble. And it's absolutely lovely. I feel like these are highly like the traditional ones, it can look a little bit boring, but this one's dead nice. The green marble looks great in the light. And this one has a broad nib on it. Feel free to unmute yourselves, by the way, genuinely. I don't mind at all, like just having a chat while I'm sketching sounds nice.
I hope you don't mind me interrupting.
Yeah,
have you ever tried Sailor Zoom nibs?
I have been very close to buying one a few times.
It changed my life. Because it's such a versatile nib.
Yeah.
You hold it at so many different degrees of angle.
Yeah.
You've got essentially 3 nibs in one.
Yeah, I'm very tempted on that. A few of my friends have been looking into them recently, and it's made me want to have a crack. So yeah, I'm very tempted.
What pen was that you just said, Andrew?
These Sailor Zoom nibs, I mean,
Sailor,
they come
right.
on a variety of different Sailor pens. I got one on, what was it? The Blue Green Nebula. It's really, really good. I mean, if you like broad nibs for writing, you know, it can do it. But then you can go on to the reverse for doing fine lines. It's such a versatile pen for all manners of application.
Right. So I will say this is what I'm going to use tonight. So this is the Robert Oster FPUK Burgundy Chocolate Notes. This is ink that we've been giving away, and it's dead nice. I've had a crack with it. I've not drawn with it yet. Oh no, I've just got ink all over my hands. Oh, poo. Anyway, so this is what it looks like. It might not show up that well on camera, actually. It's a bit of a funny one. It reminds me of Robert Oster Australian Opal Mojave. That's dead nice. If you can't get this, it's kind of similarish, but this is quite nice as well. I do like this. So yeah, I've just got ink all over my fingers picking up the bottle because, you know, it happens. But right. So I'm just gonna I haven't drawn in a day or two actually, so we'll see how it goes. So actually, you know what I'll do first? I'll just kind of roughly explain what my technique is.
Would you like me to model for you?
Oh yeah, sure. Why not? You can be the hand model since mine are all inky and gunky now. So yeah, as I said, feel free to unmute and ask, you know, kind of jump in. If I'm sketching, I'm not sure, is this is it focusing that? Just need to get this bit right.
It's perfect, Lucas.
It's focused.
Right,
Absolutely,
sweet,
absolutely.
right, brilliant. So my technique in a nutshell is I will sketch. So say I'm sketching a ball, I will shade, and then I use one of these, which is a water brush. I have a few different kind of types, but they all do the exact same thing. And what I do is I use water basically to activate the ink. And out of that, you pull in the real true colors of the ink because it breaks down all the chromatography. The problem when you add water is some of your lines will wash away. And sometimes you want soft edges or lost edges, but other times you really want some definition. So what you want to come back in is wait till it dries, but then you want to come back in then and define out some parts again. That's roughly how I sketch in a nutshell. Like that's what I do. Now, the other thing that I do, which I'm not sure if anyone's thought to do this before, so this is what I do. I'm not sure if anyone else does this, but if you get a water brush, kind of rub on top of the nib, what ends up happening?
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, so what happens is the water brush takes from the top of the nib where the breather hole is, and it actually collects onto the water brush. So you can kind of use it to build up a little bit of like pigment on the brush, and then you can come kind of plant that on your sketch. And you can use that to get some quite nice effects. And you can see very quickly, all I did here was draw a line and that and shade, and now I've got a little 3D ball. But I've let the ink do the work. That's the main thing. I've told it where to go, but I've let the ink do the work. So that's roughly how I sketch. It's pretty much as simple as that. I've never done this before, but I did put some of the ink in another brush here just to try and, because this ink's quite light, I was a bit worried that it wouldn't show up properly on camera, but this is showing up all right. I just put some in another one, just so I can get a little bit more texture. So these are what I'm going to be using. So I know all of you have pens. I know that for a fact. And these are very cheap. You can get them off Amazon in packs, and they come with all different kind of shapes and sizes, and they're pretty cheap.
You got a preference for them? Because
no,
they've been rubbish.
No, I mean, even these ones have really bad reviews on Amazon, because the main problem is people going, "Oh, I've got them and I can't unscrew them," but because they're Chinese, the threads are the wrong way around. So they're not righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, the other way. So they've got them and they're screaming in the comments going, "They're rubbish these, it doesn't even unscrew." And they've just, I
Oh
thought,
my
hang
God,
on.
I've got them, and that's exactly what I did.
There
with
you
them.
go. Told
I
you.
was thinking the same thing.
Told you. See? Oh, it made me laugh though when I saw it the first time, and I looked at it and I thought, surely not. They can't sell a product that does that. So I thought, hang on, think outside the box here. Let's twist the other way. Yeah, it works. Go and try.
You're more ingenious than me then, clearly.
Thank you.
Just went, that was crap. It doesn't work.
That's why you're an artist, Lucas, because you think outside the box.
Yeah, that's the
No,
one.
I haven't kept them.
Oh, what? Got rid of
They
them.
are a brilliant tool. I've done a little bit of watercolors, and and if they're just the easiest thing to carry around. And of course, you don't have to have them full of water. You can have a bottle of drinking water and then take them and fill it with water when you get to where you're going, if you're worried that you might spill it or squish it.
They
This
don't
is
leak.
my
I've
other-
carried them around for weeks. They don't leak.
yeah,
No,
no,
they don't,
no,
but
I've never
you-
had one leak on me ever, ever at all. And I think I've had loads of them over the years. This one I've had for like the last 2 years.
What's that one?
It genuinely doesn't matter which one you use. I just like this one because the size is about feels right. I think it's either a Windsor Neutron or Derwent. I genuinely don't know, but I will practice that. While pens matter, water brushes don't. Like, and to prove it, actually, use the cheap ones.
Do you,
Just-
Lucas,
just
do you
to
use
do-
a water brush primarily because you go out so much with your pens?
Yes. So all I do when I go out, I can shove these. Oh, that's the thing. People always ask me about paper. This is a Dale Rowley graduate sketchbook,
Nice.
A5, and you can get these and another brand, and they all do the exact same thing. The paper's the same, and I buy them because they are very cheap. They are between 90p and £1.50, and you get a decent amount of pages. They're thin, they're flexible, and they're cheap. Now, when you draw as much as I do, you kind of can't warrant to spend loads of money on expensive sketchbooks just to get an idea down, because these are cheap and cheerful. I'm not precious with them at all. I'll rag them about and they'll end up in a mess by the time I'm done with them. But it doesn't matter because I'm getting the idea across. So yeah, I thought this is my other one. This comes with me everywhere. This is a Cafe Creme, which was a grail for a while. It's a bit of a rarer M200 edition. And I have this permanently inked with Robert Oster Thunderstorm, and I never take it out of this pen since I've got it. And Robert Oster Thunderstorm is just lovely. It's one of them inks that the colours that come out of it are just so nice. If for doing sketching, Robert Oster Thunderstorm would be my number one ink with motor oil. It's all very subjective and personal preference, of course, but it's dead easy to work with. I use a lot of diamine inks as well, but Robert Oster to me is like, I love my Robert Oster inks. I think they're all brilliant. So I have to give credit to the man. He does make some rather nice ink. So, right, I'll have a go now. I don't actually know really what I'm going to draw, but I'll make it up as I'm going along. I thought if I plan for it, it kind of takes away the art of the impulsive inky sketch, which is like my whole philosophy, just to have a pen and a water brush on you and you just make stuff up as you go along. So if I planned out what I was going to draw, it kind of take away from being true to myself. So if it's rubbish, it's your fault, not mine. Right. So I'll put my water brushes there for now.
Such thing as bad art, Lucas. There's no such thing as bad art. It's the art of a different opinion and perspective.
This
No,
is
there is
a
bad
different
art.
take on audience participation, huh?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So this is your other tool you need, which is kitchen roll, which I probably go through an ungodly amount of kitchen roll just because I have it all over the show, but here we go. So I'll do a bit of live sketching. I'm sat in a really awkward position that I'm not normally in. I'm normally pretty comfy, but we'll give it a whirl. So, right. So first you kind of need to have a think about what you might want to draw. When I'm drawing commissions, oh, that's another point. I don't know how many of you know this. I don't use pencil at all. It was kind of a very highly recommended technique that's kind of passed down through professional artists. And basically the philosophy is, if you don't use pencil, you have to think about every line you put down. And over time, what it builds is confidence. You know exactly what mark that's going to make on the page. And it just works. The other example I use of that is the author Neil Gaiman writes all his books by hand in pen and ink. And the reason why he does that is to think through the sentence before he commits to it. And it's the same philosophy, just a different art form between writing and art. So rather than use a pencil and be a bit, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to commit to this, I commit to it straight away. And I work with the mistakes on the fly. And that's what gives you the energy of the sketch. So yeah, I'll shut up now. Procrastinating on my sketch. So let's have a think.
So it ties in because somebody's asked, how do you actually choose your topics?
Well, everyone has different interests, I suppose. I'm more interested in things than people, I suppose. Different artists tend to fall in one or two categories. One are interested in things, one are interested in people and emotions. I'm more interested in things like buildings, architecture, that kind of thing, and then telling a story with that, whereas some people do it the other way around. So yeah, let me just get started on a bit of something. So I draw a lot of like shacks and rundown stuff. But yeah, if you stress too much and you think about it too much, you lose all of the energy in the sketch. So let's have a go. So, right, so you'll see how much I actually just commit straight away to these sketches. I don't really think too much about what I'm doing. It just kind of happens. And over time, you just build this line weight confidence. But you'll see how messy I am with these. The thing is, if you try and be all precious on the first run, this is all going to wash away anyway. So there's no point me putting in this perfect line, like, oh yeah, that line's great, because it just washes away in a minute when I add all the water on top. So the energy comes from the kind of rough marks that are in these sketches. So I'm going to have a go at like a little kind of Australian outback shack, I think, because I like shacks and Australian ink obviously today. So you have to go for a bit of a shack. So I just kind of make stuff up. I have a fairly wide visual library, which comes with just time, basically, and experience. I won't be as fast today, just purely because I won't shut up talking. But yeah, anyone could feel free to unmute, have a chat with me.
One of the things you were talking about is taking your pens everywhere. Have you ever actually lost a pen?
I have, and luckily recovered it. And I don't know how, but it was pretty damn lucky. I was at uni, and a lot of you will crease up inside when you hear this. I went and watched a talk, a guest lecture, and they had these nice, big, comfy, deep couches. Lovely, comfy couches for this talk. And a nice, rather shiny Diplomat Aero was sitting in one of my pockets during this nice talk. And I got up and I left, and I went and I sat in my lecture 3 floors up in a completely different part of the building for like, oh God, probably a good hour and a half. Another tutor came and went, has anyone lost a pen? I'm thinking, oh, I have OCD. I check all my stuff before and after I leave a room. Have I left anything? I always check my pens, but because it wasn't in my pen case, it was in my pocket, I'd kind of missed it of my normal checklist of stuff to make sure I've not lost stuff.
Oh, no.
So anyway, so I said, no one in this room lost anything. He went, I had my back face to him as he came in the room. No one's lost anything. And he went, it's a rather nice silver one. And he should have like spun around in it. What do you mean? It's a rather nice, what is it? And he went, it's a fountain pen. And I was like, let me have a look. And he walked over and he pulled out of his pocket. And my face when I saw that in his hand, and I had no clue I'd lost it. It'd been out of my hand for hours. And I just had no clue that it had gone missing until he turned around and went, oh, it's a rather nice silver one, and thought, none of these in my class use pens. And yeah, it was a rather nice silver Diplomat. So yeah. And then he went, oh, it's nice. I went, is it expensive? And I went, a bit. And he went, how expensive? And I went, and I think they're like 150 quid expensive, and it looked like I just told him that someone's died, you know, one of them. Like the look in his face, and it was a picture. But yeah, so that was that was the diplomat losing experience, and I've thankfully have not lost anything since. But
I find it amazing that, you know, when you say how much you spent on a fountain pen, people sort of like gasp at you, and yet when people, you know, get the latest iPhone or Android phone or whatever technological device they get, you know, you're spending in the regions of the minimum of probably £250, going up to anywhere like £1,000 plus. And
yeah, exactly.
It's good
And it
value.
ain't gonna last as long as a fountain pen.
No,
No, it's true.
no, definitely not.
My only other question, and then everybody else can just jump in and have their go, was what nib have you got on your 3776?
It's a, there you go. It's a 14
A bit
carat.
jealous of that.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I absolutely love this thing. It's belting. It's absolutely belting. It's a nice, like, proper crisp, just fine black line. And I absolutely love it. It comes with me everywhere, this thing. It's brilliant. I do have some other goodies with me. I can got all my pens out just in case. But yeah, I am being a bit slower today because I'm waffling so much. But yeah, feel free to hop on and ask me whatever you want.
Have you ever tried the 3776 extra fine nibs or extra fine nibs?
No, I've not. I've the amount of times that I've seen one on the BST and been 2 seconds away from biting and gone, you've already got two. I've got one with a music nib and I've got one with a fine nib, so I feel like that covers quite a broad range there. So
I'm not saying anything at this
you
point.
always use the reverse, but I mean,
If we ever manage to have a Northwest meet, I'll bring my my soft fine, because that's something else again.
yeah, that was another one. Because a while ago I was thinking for my 21st birthday, oh, Nakaya, is that a bit much? And I thought, oh, if I was getting it, would I
never
go with
too
the
much.
soft?
Never too
well,
much.
I had a feeling
Get a Nakaya.
you might be slightly biased there, mate.
I think we might
If you
need
get
it.
a Nakaya, get it from Japan. You will save yourself a ton of cash.
There you go.
I think we might need a Northwest 3776 meetup. Is it all right if I ask a question, Lucas?
Yeah, of course, mate.
I'm one of the things I love about your sketches is the detail.
Oh, they're not detailed.
But it's like you know the subject, so you know what detail to put in.
Right.
You know what detail makes it look like what it should be. That's not just some old shack. That it looks real because it's got character to it in the detail.
Yeah, I mean,
and do you get that from studying pictures of shacks, or is it all from in your head?
I mean, to be honest, it's mainly just in my head, honestly. I look like a bit of a weirdo when I'm out in public because I'll be, you know, sitting Weatherspoons and I'll be stood there looking at the ceiling rather than anything else, and I'll be like, how does that wall connect to that beam up there? Like really thinking it like.
So you're observing details.
Yeah, I've always been very, very highly observant since I was a kid. And I'll be like, oh, they put a new stop sign there. And I'll be like, how the hell, how did you notice that? Like, oh, yeah, that stop sign wasn't there yesterday. I can just tell. Because I like, I'm a weirdo that just like looks at everything in obsessive detail.
My son's
That's like me when I was on the roads.
My son's really good at drawing, and he's the same. He just notices details and stuff.
Yeah, you either have it or you don't. I think it's really one of them. So I'm kind of happy with the shack now, I suppose. As I said, I keep them. I don't know what this shack's almost a mix of Chinese, Australian, and I don't know. We're making it up. It's a mysterious shack that doesn't really live anywhere, but yeah, a lot of you can see how like rough and loose I handle a lot of these details. As I said, when in my professional work, I don't work like this, where I'm just like, yeah, bosh, that goes over there. Oh, barrel, woo, you know, post. I plan and think out the images and the compositions, whereas with this, it's more so just getting the kind of the mood down of what I'm trying to make. But I like these kind of barren, rundown situations more than anything else because I don't know. I feel like they tell a better story.
The opposite to your OCD as well, isn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? I hate drawing like linear, clean stuff. I hate it. I can't stand it. You'll never ever catch me drawing a skyscraper. Well, unless I'm paid to. Then I will.
Well, there's another question. I mean,
Yeah.
is it something like that? If you get a commission, is there something that you dread getting?
Well, there's nothing. There is a few commissions that I've done in the past, and I've been a bit like, some of them you like more than others. Like, I've done castles, I've done the Angel of the North, I've done boats, I've done planes, I've done people, I've done pets, I've done rabbits, I've done dogs and cats and cars, and I've done everything now at this point. The main one that I don't like is people, just because you have to slow down. If I'm doing this on your face, you look like the elephant man, like you won't look anything like you. It just doesn't work. The style doesn't transfer when you're doing a face. If you don't get the detail right and capture it, the life of the person, it just doesn't look like them. So for inky sketching, this is what
the thing is though, Lucas, there are a lot of surrealist artists out there and cubist artists, which obviously very much coined a look to their artworks. So you don't have to paint realistically, as long as you paint within the sort of remits of your confidence and your abilities. Someone eventually is going to love what you do because the emotion of what goes into the actual artwork. Because let's face it, if you look at Monk, his portraits don't look anything like a person. But people will pay millions and millions and millions for it because of the name and the emotion which goes into it. And how do you get a name? Because lots of people like your artwork.
I suppose. No, you are right there, definitely. I think the main thing is if fantastic. It's like, can you draw my baby for Christmas? And then it's a Monk. You'd be a bit like, what the hell have you seen in my child? I'd have a few angry customers then.
So you did get me spot on when you were doing that mystery one.
You were a rare one, actually. I think you might be one of the only people I've actually drawn and just gone, yeah.
Let me just go grab it because most people won't have seen it, and it's gorgeous.
But I think it was quite easy for me to. Oh right, what I'll do is at this point I've kind of shifted away from the pen. I'm like the idea's there now, but now it's all in the hands of the ink. So I normally leave it kind of. Oh, there you go.
Oh, brilliant!
Oh, that's great.
So are you actually working to like a vanishing point in your mind when you're doing these?
I've had a vanishing point and I hated it. Wasn't for me at all. Because these are like they're just done cat like. If you
no. Sorry, I meant a vanishing point actually in the actual artwork rather than the actual pen.
No, I'm making it up. I don't know. So you'll see how kind of brush I am now with the water. I'm really I add on an ambient light if you want to get into the technical. It's one of them. I can't really explain what I'm doing because I just do it like. I actually work better when I just do it, when I'm out and about. So straight away, you can immediately get a sense of depth to the kind of the building. If I had on a light this way, I suppose, for this sketch. So I'm literally just now kind of like, I'm not being precious about it at all. You can see I'm just kind of smearing the brush on the paper there, and I'm not squeezing it either. Some people think that I squeeze it. I don't squeeze it. I just kind of let the water just kind of come out whenever. And this first pass is just me throwing down a bit of color as like a base, kind of like how you see artists using like an ochre base on a painting. It's just to get a little bit of color in there before I start building it up. This ink's quite light, so it's not the easiest to sketch with, I will be honest. But since we were doing this, I thought, why not? So I'm just kind of like imagining that the light's going that way and just kind of smearing my brush the other way. One of these things, these sketches, they just they look rubbish until like the last minute, and then you go, oh, I see it now. I just kind of work because some people go, how do you know when to stop? And you just stop when it looks like what you were having a crack at, basically. That's as technical as it gets in my life, anyway. So I've added a little bit of a wash on there. It's kind of a bit tricky with the light, but what I'll do now is when I'm doing my skies, all I do, I was showing this before, but I'll just get the brush and I'll twirl it about on the nib, and you'll see the nib start darkening up as it absorbs some of the ink. And then for my skies, I literally just skies in real life go dark to light. The darker is the higher up in the atmosphere. As it gets to the sunset, it goes lighter. So what happens is if you ink your brush up and move downwards, by the time that you get to the bottom, you've started running out of ink. And what happens is it kind of looks like you've done a sky when actually you've just done like a simple thing, and it kind of looks like it you just kind of make it up as you're going along, really. And this is how I do all my skies, because some people are like, oh, you've done a lovely job of that sky. And I'm just like, this is all I've done. I mean, you can see how rough I am with these. I'm really not protective or precious of them at all, but it just gives the impression of it. I'll actually grab this. I don't normally do this, but I feel in the mood to kind of mess about a little bit more. So this has just got a little bit more of that ink in, and I'm just going to darken up the top a little bit more just because of how light this ink is. I want it to catch a little bit more of the colour moving down. So I've just kind of put a bit more of that up there. And all I'm going to do is I'm just kind of pulling it down, and I'm just doing horizontal strokes because obviously the sky moves in horizontals. But yeah, I'm really rough for these because when you start being precious, you lose all of the life. It just kind of drains out of it and it looks boring. The best thing you can do is just keep it dead loose, dead simple. And you can look when I'm holding my pen, I'm really I'm holding it far. I'm not getting right in with the details. And a lot of artists do that, and that's absolutely fine. But for what I do, I really like just kind of, putting stuff in. The only problem with sucking a load of ink out of the feed is sometimes it takes a little minute to catch up and you need to give it a little bit of a squidge, but that's why I like piston fillers, because I don't have to undo it then. So now what I basically explained with the ball earlier, where I've done my sketch and then I've added my water now. So I've lost the edges now. So now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and pull out some of the edges that I like. As I said, this is a bit of a trickier ink to work with because it's lighter. Some of the inky packs that I've done with lighter inks, and they've gave nice results, but I've had to do a few passes to build up the value. It's like this flag here. You can't tell that's a flag anymore. It just looks like a cloud.
Sort of sky.
But once I go back in and kind of go over it, now it's not a cloud anymore. Now it's a piece of the building. So I just mess around and I keep it fun. It's almost like how you see kids playing with Lego and they're just kind of like, yeah, and they're fighting about with it on the page. I'm like that. I'm like, oh yeah, he's really messed up that plank there. No, yeah, this bit of the roof's falling in and that's rubbish and that's broke. And I just kind of do that until the sketch is over, and it's dead nice and fun to do. It's really therapeutic to me, sketching. This was one of the questions that I got and I forgot to actually bring up. I got into art for therapy purely. I spent a lot of time in hospital when I was in my early teens, and one of the recommended therapy types was art therapy. and it was literally, it's called Zentangling, if you ever heard of that. And what it is you have a shape, say you've got a flag, and you fill it with different lines, and in one you'll do circles, in one you'll do squares, in one you'll do lines, and then you colour it in. And it's dead relaxing to do. You can just sit and do that while you're watching TV or while you're on the phone, and it's really, really relaxing to do. And how my art actually progressed was I started thinking, I'm bored of drawing flags and circles and cubes. I want something else to draw. So being a, 13, 14-year-old lad, I was like, oh yeah, I want to draw a gun. start doing patterns inside a gun. So then I was on YouTube watching how to draw tutorials, and when I got to my GCSE year, picking your options, there wasn't really much hope of me taking my GCSEs because I was that ill at the time. It was like, if you're going to have a crack, do art, because he relaxes out when he does that. Because I could only use one hand because I had IVs or the other. So that was the whole point of you can do something to do with one hand that relaxes you. You couldn't play games because you need two hands for a controller. So that's where it was like the one hand with a pen. So then basically what happened is when I got to GCSE, it was like, right, yeah, you do GCSE art. And then I was all right at GCSE art. And then when it got round to picking my A levels, I was like, it's all I know really, and I love it, and it chills me out. And I took A level art, and then I bounced from A level art and found out there's people who get paid to work in games and draw, which is like, bingo. If you're a kid who loves games and drawing, you can get paid to do that, games and art in one job. Absolutely brilliant. So ever since then, I've just been like, dead set, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw ideas for games for a living. And that's where I am at the minute, really. So yeah, I should be graduating next year. And I don't know where I'm going at the minute. I'm keeping my options open, keeping, the inky sketching up. But yeah, you can see just going in and reinforcing that now, you can kind of, it's a bit hard to get on camera, this.
Oh, that's amazing.
But you can, I'll put a better picture of it after, because you really can't on this. It kind of, it pulls out like the structure, because it's all lost when you add on the first wash. And then at this point, it's just making it up essentially. I'll start adding in bits of extra stuff, bits of grass, bits of planks, little rocks and pebbles that you might find in some dodgy area with a shack with no door on and windows with planks over them. So, essentially just make it up. Sometimes adding birds, the classic. Everyone can draw one of them, a bird. All you do is a little V. Do a few of them, you've got birds there, So all I'm doing, yeah, exactly. I'm just pulling it forward. I'm separating the foreground from the background just by strengthening these lines. And that's all it is, really. And you just do that over and over and over again until it kind of looks like what you're having a stab at. And that's it, pretty much. But yeah. I just mess around with my sketches. I don't take them too seriously. I make them up on the fly. Sometimes they look great, and other times they look rubbish. I'll be honest, some of them don't look great at all. Now I've got a bit of ink in it, and I could probably ruin the sketch at this point, but in the name of science. So I'm just going to darken up the top bit here underneath a little bit more to add a bit more value. Do the same where this little roof is. And you can see, look how wide this brush is. There's no being precious with that. I mean, look at it compared to a nib. It's massive. It's huge. It'd be the equivalent of probably, I don't know, like 2 mil. It's pretty big. Always have a bit of inky paper just in case, but yeah, this is like mad. But I'm just kind of messing with it. there's
Thing is,
no
Lucas,
real-
I could mess with a sketch like that and it would look nothing like that.
I,
What a talent.
I do spend a fair bit of time drawing. I will confess that is a secret to it, but it's what happens when essentially this is all I've done for the last few years. But same again. While I could draw a hyper realistic shack, it's not as much fun as a little, I don't want to say, a bit cruddy. It's more interesting.
Yeah.
Just to have all this kind of brushwork and you can see all the different like texture going on in it. It's way more interesting to me. It has so much more character. And that's really what inky sketching's all about to me. I can do real stuff and proper stuff and take my time with it when I'm doing my stuff digitally on the computer, but when I'm in a sketchbook, I just want to mess about and have fun. And unfortunately, I think people forget that part of it, that the whole part of drawing is having fun. And I think what people see in my sketches, it's weird for me to see, say what other people see in my drawings, but I think what people see is just the impulsivity and the fun on the page. That's what makes them nice. Because it's bizarre to me that people like these. I've got to be honest. When people started messaging me to buy these sketches, I was absolutely blown away because I was doing these just as warm-ups before I, did proper stuff. And it's mind-blowing to me that people really enjoy these to the point where they'll actually commission me to sketch for them.
Well, I think that's why impressionism has always been really popular because there's always that famous saying "less is more," and it shows the emotion of the artist. Because let's face it, most of those artists of the time could paint realistically, but they chose not to because they really wanted to express colours and emotion. And I think you can get much more expression from a brushstroke or the marks of a fountain pen or a dip pen or whatever tool you're using to draw with, rather than actually trying to make something ultra realistic. No, obviously, that's a skill in itself. I think for most people, they enjoy that sort of element of freedom.
I think, like you say as well, it's got the energy that you would lose if you were doing super realistic.
Yeah, it loses the magic and the motion and all that stuff. That's the shame. And I lost all my clouds, I've just realised. So, by the way, just to another, feather in Pelican's cap, this has been uncapped for about 10 minutes while I've been doing the water there. And it still just works. I leave these uncapped for ages and it just picks back up. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They're wonderful little tools, these. As I said, I do not use these to write with basically ever. But for sketching, they are the bee's knees. They're brilliant. I love them. And as I said, this one's 3-year-old. This was my first pen.
Lucas, what do you use to write with?
So I did have a little bit in my talk before. It's mainly, Pilot Custom 845, the 823. Then I have the M800, I use a lot. The M600, and then my JG8 from John. And they're like, it's one of them you realize over time what you just kind of naturally gravitate to. And I have a very big difference between sketchers and writers. And for me, this is a sketcher. This isn't a writer. Pelican intends for it to be a writer, obviously, but I'm not using it for that at all. I use it as just a tool to get stuff done, really.
Have you managed to persuade your uncle to try pens other than Pelicans?
Well, so well, we'll get in there with that. I think it was one of them where he's Mr. Mont Blanc man, my uncle. One of them who has the classics. He has a green stripe. He has you 146. He has one or two nice Pelican editions and a nice Mont Blanc, but he uses them very just to take into a meeting. He's not mad into the pen kind of thing. The main one that he is a guy who just uses black ink. And I got him some Mont Blanc lavender purple, And I'm not sure he was the biggest fan of that, to be honest. He did buy a diamine ink though. I'm just not sure if he uses them to this point. It was at the point where
Have you not got him as a member of the group yet?
no, he doesn't use Facebook. My uncle is a bit old school, you know. But
We'd soon have him buying all the inks.
oh no.
Mind you,
He's
if
not-
your sketches
He's
don't
just,
get him
he-
buying
I think he's one of them. He's used them his entire life, but very, very practically. I don't think you'd be him going, oh yeah, have you seen the sheen in this? Oh, but you know, quite. He's just not that type of guy. Some people just are not like that at all. And it's one of them. I've tried to convert a few people and just been like, you know, like what on earth? Like, no, don't make any sense whatsoever. So.
Lucas, do any of your course mates do ink drawings?
That's a very good question. So, my best friend, when we started at university, and we weren't best friends at that point, but I think she started to be a bit like curious. I could see, you know, looking over. We didn't talk that much, but she could see her looking over, having a peek at, you know, what I was up to. And anyway, so she was quite curious, and she had a go with one. I chucked her. It's like a little gin now, and she had a bit of a sketch of it. She kind of liked it. The next day, I went home and I got her. I didn't really know her at this point, but I got her a 30ml diamine bottle, you know, with I think it was red or black, and just a cheap gin how, and I gave it to her, and now she's. I think, oh God, she's got a load of sailors, pelicans. She's bought pens off me. Oh, she's got a pen off John. And yeah, she's proper into it now. Oh yeah.
Good job, well done.
Oh yeah. Oh no, and she draws with him all the time. Oh, it's great. And it's nice because it's nice having a friend who lives around the corner, and we're really close friends now. Really, really, really close friends. And it's nice having someone who lives around the corner and can, you know, I'll take my pens up and be like, oh, check out this, and she'll be, oh yeah. Well, my mum's like, what is wrong with my son? You know,
My my best mate from high school, we both got into fountain pens when we were little kids, and then didn't really do anything, didn't really bring them to school very much, just used cheap WH Smith pens because we didn't want anything. And she's in the group. But like we're
Isha.
Yeah, Isha, yeah. So we were best mates at school. So we're still friends now, and I mentioned the group to her about 6 months ago when she joined. And I think her pen collection now rivals mine. We have similar size ink collections. We'll order inks to each other's houses. Like, hey, I saw this, and I couldn't have too many parcels arriving. So hey, and so we're just like nerding out together. It's so good to have like close friends, nearby friends that you can nerd out about with.
It really, really is. I think one of them. Right now. My uncle wasn't mad into it, so I couldn't really nerd out with him to the extent, but. Now that my friend's into it, it's like, yeah, but so she's into it now. And then one of my closest, like oldest friend, he came over to mine a little while ago, and he tried some of my pens. And now he's got two, he's got an Eco, he's got a JG6, and he's got a Platinum Procon, and he's saving up for a pilot, pheasant, what they called with the Namiki stuff. What's it called? The golden pheasant, I think.
Yeah, it's the golden pheasant.
That's the one. So he's saving up for one of them for when he graduates now. And it's like, this was a guy who didn't use pens, you know, 6 months ago. So I have had my influences there, definitely. So.
Did you have any course mates who didn't even know what a fountain pen was?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't really talk to. It's one of them. What you have is, I can't really show my stuff, but because what we study at university, you need like 3 monitors. So if you imagine 2 big monitors, then like a space for drawing, then 2 big monitors. In a class, you end up sat like 2 meters away from everyone. So if you have one on one side and one on the other, you know, you don't really see what people are up to. So I think it's one of them. I don't really think anyone else in my class is like as 2D oriented. Our school specializes a lot in 3D as well, 3D modeling, 3D art, and the 3D artists don't draw with pen the same way that I do. There's only 2 or 3 that draw with pen in our class.
The thing is, if you began because you were stuck in hospital, not able to do the computer stuff, then you've come to it from a different angle that they have.
Yeah, completely, exactly. Well, yeah, it's at this point that I'd kind of be like, I'm basically bored of this, so this is like quadruple what I'd normally spend on something like this, but you can kind of see the colour there. I'll post a picture of it, but depends what you want to do. If you want, you can end the talk here if you want, but I was just going to carry on sketching tonight while I just chat. And people can see me doing a bit of sketching while I'm having a chit chat if that's what people want to do.
Shall we turn the recording off?
Yeah, go on.
Do we
Go on
announce the
then.
prizes
Do you want to?
first?
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
saying the same thing.
Yeah, do your prizes, and then after I'll carry on sketching and have a chat if people want to chat to me about whatever, sounds nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And then
That's
normally what
amazing,
I'll do
Lucas.
is
Really good.
I'll literally just be like, I'll be like Inky Shack. This is literally what I do. Inky Shack, and then I'll put the day on, which is 21st, 12th, 21. I'll put Pelican M200,
And the ink.
and of course the ink. And then sign it. Put me. And that's me done. So there you go. So if you can pull on a drawer, and what I'll do is I'll send this to someone, and I'll throw in, if I have one, I think I do, I'll throw in a water brush and a sample of this, so you can have a go. And what I always do in my sketches, so when I make an inky pack, I always start in the middle, then I pull out the middle piece, and then I slice it, and then I send the other half of the same piece of paper to the person. So when you get one of my packs, it's literally the sister page that you're sketching on that I send in the post. So you can have a go. So it's like no excuse. If you got the same paper, you got the same ink, you've used the exact same water brush that I've used in the sketch, you've seen me do it because I send a video, it's like, get on with it, no excuses. The pen doesn't really matter. You can put the ink in whatever pen. I'll shut up now. You can do your prizes.
Okay, well, so I've done the random draw generator, and the winner of the Darren ink package, if you can DM me, because you're a bit like Cher, you've only got one name, so the winner is Cherry. So if you can DM me with your information, that'd be great. And I'll set that up with Dimane for you. And then the winner of the Robert Oster bottle of ink this evening is Fiona Lane. And then shall we just do a number generator for the sketch?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Let me do a number generator.
It's not my best sketch because it's one of them. It's so great being able to, I've been asked to come and waffle about pens, and I normally get told to shut up. So, the sketch really wasn't the focus for me tonight. It was more like a good therapy vent session for me, honestly. I've been pent up with all this, it's one of them. If you had a speech, and you had to give a speech, you have 2 hours to save your life. I could, make it 5, easy. Anyway.
Well, the winner of the sketch and sample and things is Beverly.
Sweet.
So if you want to message Lucas directly, and then he can sort it out for you.
Yeah. So if you send me a DM, and I'll pop it in the post tomorrow because I have a few bits to go in the post. So yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.
I will. I'll turn the recording off then, and then everybody can just carry on. Okay.